You're listening to Business Success in a Virtual World podcast. If you are a leader navigating these new immersive technologies, this is your definitive resource to understand the innovative power of XR, VR, and AR. I'm Tim Beharon, Chairman of Creative Strategies, and I'm joined by Barton Goldenberg, President of ISM Guide. In each episode, we navigate through new products, effective strategies, and highlight actual business case studies implementing extended reality into business processes. Our resource website now boasts over 300 case studies, 300 articles, and 100 videos presenting successful examples of businesses using these technologies in field service, training, digital twins, customer service, in medical and manufacturing, and so much more. Check out the website at ismguide.com. Now, on to the next episode. Well, Barton, we have a rather interesting company to profile that both creates incredible hardware and software for the metaverse and artificial intelligence. But because of that, it allows for a lot of really interesting case studies and capabilities. This particular company is one that I'm extremely familiar with, Nvidia. I have known their CEO, Jensen Huang, for 25 plus years. I was consulting for a competitor of his when he was an executive at another graphics card company in the late 80s, early 90s, and I got to know him briefly there. And then when he moved to start Nvidia, I was one of the first analysts that was brought in to actually see what they were going to do. And I have marveled at two things. One, the amazing growth of the company over the last 25 years or so. But I want to point out one thing about Jensen that is quite important. Even in the days when I saw him at his other company, he was the smartest guy in the room. He's one of the most brilliant engineering minds I've ever met. And he's a most amazing from the standpoint of being a visionary. And he has more energy than anybody I've ever seen in our tech sector. So with that intro, tell me what you've learned about and how you are observing NVIDIA.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And I'm so happy we're doing this case study because I know you've been in the industry, the semiconductor, and following NVIDIA for, as you've said, 25 years. So I'm really looking forward to an interactive session, and I'll stop on purpose at different points and just get your opinion. But anyhow, I look at NVIDIA, this metaverse case study, as providing a solid foundation to the metaverse. So for those that don't know, NVIDIA is an American multinational corporation and technology company. It's headquartered quite close to where Tim lives, and that is in Santa Clara, California. It was founded in April 1993, as Tim alluded to, by three computer scientists, Jensen Huang, Chris Malinchowski, and Curtis Priam. NVIDIA's, as I mentioned, headquartered in Santa Clara, has a revenue of $27 billion and is employing more than 26,000 employees at the end of 2023. So it's an amazing growth story. It's a software and fabless company that designs graphical processing units, more commonly referred to as GPUs, application programming interfaces, or APIs, for data science and high-performance computing, as well as systems on a chip, also referred to as SOAKs, for the mobile computing and automotive market. NVIDIA is also a dominant supplier, as Tim alluded to, of artificial intelligence, both hardware as well as software. For more than 30 years, NVIDIA has been a leader in the technology innovation in semiconductor chip industry. Here's just a brief timeline of some of the incredible innovations that NVIDIA has done since its founding in 1993. So it came to be in 1993 by introducing the 3D graphics to gaming and multimedia markets. And of course, we look back at that and think that's just the way it is, but that wasn't the way it was until NVIDIA came in 93 and introduced 3D graphics. In 99, 6 years later, it invented the GPU, graphical processing unit, which sets the stage to reshape the whole computer industry. 7 years later, in 2006, they unveiled CUDA architecture, which opens parallel processing to GPUs of GPUs to science and research. 6 years later, it sparks the era of modern AI by powering the breakthrough AlexNet neural network. 6 years later, they invent the computer graphics with Nvidia RTX, the first GPU capable of real-time ray tracing. And then 4 years later, they announced this very important discovery, if you will, called Nvidia Omniverse, and it's a platform that plays a foundational role in building the metaverse. And then last year, they created something that's also a huge breakthrough. It's their H100 GPU chip, which Nvidia calls the first chip designed for generative AI. It's the most powerful and commercially accessible GPU for large-scale AI and high-performing computing tasks, including large language models, recommenders, computer vision, medical imaging, and speech recognition. So I think you can see from that, Tim, this is a company that has simply, on a regular basis, been innovative. I wonder if you have any comments on that.
Well, yeah, and the thing that I will point out is Jensen and his team in general look for a particular problem in their range of expertise. And if you tell them it can't be done, they go out of their way to prove you wrong. And that's always been their mantra. But what I find more important is, and Jensen doesn't get enough credit for this, but he's one of our true visionaries that sees the future. He understands where the market needs to go. And like Apple, Steve Jobs, in a very similar way, they then create the technology to make it go in that direction. So, they really came to big fame when they were chosen as the processor for Microsoft's Xbox. And then the GPUs evolved to become so much more powerful. And then those cards with the GPUs were then put into PCs, which turned PCs into gaming systems. So they have been at the center of many of the moving the needle of technology in multiple areas already. And I just can't emphasize enough that Jensen, not only as the technical leader of the company, but more or less the spiritual leader, as far as driving vision, really is one of the closest people I know of that could fit the Steve Jobs comparison.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, in addition to being known for the technological innovations that I just went through and Tim alluded to, in the past few years, Nvidia has gotten significant attention because of its stock performance on the NASDAQ exchange. So investors that bought Nvidia, for example, back in 2016, 8 years ago, would have paid $10 a share. They've seen Nvidia's price skyrocket 239% in 2023, and increase already 41% in 2024 to a current price of $727. Wow. The key competitors, by the way, to Nvidia really include AMD, Intel, and others. And Tim, is this a real competitive market where one's leapfrogging the other and so forth, or is Nvidia, how does Nvidia fit into the competition?
Well, in many ways, Nvidia is actually pushing the ball forward in the sense that they have taken major leadership position in this. I'll tell you one little side note. I was in a discussion working with Intel many, many years ago when the board was presented with the idea of purchasing Nvidia, and they decided against it. Years afterwards, one of their top executives and I discussed this, and he was the one who presented it, and he was really upset with the board. But imagine what would have happened. Now, having said that, Nvidia was a smaller company. Intel had no GPUs, and I don't think they would have had regulatory issues. But Intel basically did not pull the trigger. And as a result, Nvidia then moved forward. It's just a company that is fascinating to watch because at the moment, Intel is very far behind, although they are making serious headway. AMD is the closest competitor because they've been working with GPUs for decades. And while they have not matched them product for product at the GPU level yet, they're getting close. But at the moment, I would say that this is one of those scenarios where as AMD gets close or Intel gets close, Nvidia moves the goalpost.
Incredible. Well, Nvidia made a significant contribution to the metaverse with what was referred to earlier on as the Omniverse platform. And what that platform does is it helps build and operate metaverse applications in 3D. It's a platform, kind of look at it as a gateway to a 3D metaverse, which links digital and physical worlds. And as we know, that's the real objective of a successful metaverse, a clear link and seamless integration between digital and physical worlds. Omniverse comprises of all the technological advances of NVIDIA that we spoke about earlier, connects specialists across all industries and all disciplines to enable real-time and synchronized workflows within the platform. Now, the standard language of today's 2D world or 2D internet is HTML. We all know that. For the metaverse, the standard language is called the Universal Scene Descriptor, or USD. Like the internet, the metaverse requires a computing platform, and that platform is Omniverse, a universal scene descriptor platform that is both a toolkit for building metaverse applications and a computer engine to run virtual worlds. In fact, Omniverse is a new computing platform, and thus it requires a new computer system. There are three elements to the Omniverse computer. The first one is their RTX computer for creators, designers, and engineers. The second is the OVX servers to host connections to the Nucleus database and run virtual world simulations, including digital twin technology. And finally, NVIDIA's GDN, which are like portals into the metaverse. Any comment on the computer, Tim, before I carry on?
No, it's just this is one of those visionary thoughts because, two things that he did amazingly important is that the CUDA architecture, which is really the software languages and the advanced computing software, he actually started cutting relationships with major universities. So they became programming courses in big universities. So then when these engineers got out, they already knew how to use the CUDA architecture. And he's put a lot of effort into priming the pump, in a sense, by working with universities to get these folks already primed and ready to program for what he was doing. So like I said, he's really visionary.
Wonderful. So let's look at 8 real-world applications that are built on NVIDIA's Omniverse platform, just to get a feeling for how diverse and widespread the application is and the platform has become. So Amazon operates and orchestrates a global network of warehouses that include over 200 fulfillment centers, handling tens of million packages a day. This complex operation requires over 500,000 mobile drive robots to support warehouse logistics. By building AI-enabled digital twins of their warehouse using NVIDIA's Omniverse platform, Amazon is able to optimize their warehouse design and flow, train more intelligent robot assistants, and gain overall productivity. Number 2, PepsiCo, another company with a complex network of hundreds of distribution centers. Since 1 billion PepsiCo products are consumed daily, improving throughput, reducing downtime, reducing the energy consumption of their distribution centers are all critical. Leveraging the NVIDIA platform, PepsiCo is developing an AI-powered digital twin of their distribution center in the NVIDIA Omniverse enterprise and optimizing operations with NVIDIA's Metropolis and Tau. Now, I'll talk about digital twins a little bit later, but the bottom line is they take it could be an object, it could be a factory, it could be a car, and they basically make a digital twin of that, put it in the metaverse so you can optimize the metaverse and then bring that back into the real world. But we'll hear more about that in a minute. Number three, Siemens, the very large German company. And they're focusing on becoming or being the leading player in what is referred to as the industrial metaverse, which heavily builds on digital twin. In June 2022, Siemens struck a deal with Nvidia to combine the Siemens Accelerated Digital Business Platform with Nvidia's Omniverse platform, both to enable the industrial metaverse and to help companies design and operate metaverse applications. And you'll see this theme carry through with Nvidia, Tim already alluded to, with universities. This is Siemens. I'm going to talk about Microsoft, but partnering, not always doing things completely on their own, but partnering with, large, respectable organizations. Number four, Deutsche Bank, the large German global corporation, signed a multi-year partnership contract with Nvidia to rethink financial operations using AI technology. Leveraging, again, the Nvidia Omniverse photorealistic digital avatar capability, the bank has developed a 3D virtual avatar that aims to help employees navigate internal bank systems and answer staff-related questions. Soon, the objective is to use this technology to reimagine the bank's customer experience and customer service offering. The company are also building a number of applications and large language models to detect fraud operations and improve service in the field of risk management. So you see it's a slightly different application, but again, a wonderful application. Fifth is Sony Pictures Animation. And they've made great strides in improving their pre-production workflow, allowing artists to have greater control and creativity when transitioning their 2D storyboards into the 3D space. Sony Pictures Animation leveraged Nvidia's Omniverse platform to build an internal application. It's not important, but it's called Flixiverse, which allows non-3D fluid artists and directors to easily navigate a 3D environment, making better informed creative decisions, as well as significantly optimizing and accelerating the pre-production workflow. Now, I'm going to switch gears and talk about the automotive industry, because that's where Nvidia really has made a tremendous contribution as well. So Lotus Cars manufactured the iconic British sports car using Omniverse to help build digital twins of its factory to assist with optimizing its manufacturing process, such as virtual assembly welding stations. Jaguar Land Rover uses NVIDIA Omniverse platform to train artificial intelligence models and control algorithms for real-world driving scenarios. So this allows Jaguar Land Rover to iterate on machine learning algorithms for self-driving cars much faster than having them drive on real-world courses, putting working smart cars onto test courses in a fraction of the time. These are the things that people remember. And BMW is building the first world's virtual factory on NVIDIA's Omniverse platform. This virtual factory is a perfect digital twin of BMW's future 400-hectare plant in Debrecen, Hungary, which is slated to produce about 150,000 vehicles each year when it opens up next year, 2025. So here you have, 8 examples: Amazon, PepsiCo, Siemens, Deutsche Bank, Sony Pictures Animation, and then Lotus, Jaguar Land Rover, and BMW on the car front. Just examples of how diverse and how capable the Omniverse platform is. Any comments on that, Tim?
No, the diversity is significant. And, it's interesting because in our podcasts, we have been talking about many companies who started, actually, in Gucci's case, as early as 2016, working on metaverse and virtual and 3D immersive projects. And one of the things and reasons that Barton and I started the Metaverse Resource Center and the podcast is to bring to people to understand that this has been going on for quite a while. The metaverse is not new. Businesses have already discovered this and started working with it. And as I said, as early as 2016. And the key thing here is how they are using it and in the process learning and perfecting the usage. And of course, in NVIDIA's case, they are providing not only the Omniverse, but they're doing the training for the engineers. They work and consult on it. I mean, NVIDIA approaches this, as you pointed out, as a partnership. And that's why they've made success. And that's why it's fascinating when I'm hearing these 8 examples. These are things that have been in the works for quite a while. And I keep getting this question, well, what the heck is the metaverse even good for? And I just point them to our
Right.
website and say, yeah, go
Absolutely.
read this. But the reality is that Nvidia, again, has a significant leadership role across the entire process. And
Well, they
that's
took it a
why,
step further.
yeah,
They
and
took it a
that's
step
why
further this year.
their stock has risen so significantly, along with the fact that their AI architecture has now become more critical because of what's going on in artificial intelligence.
Well, let me pick right up on that because the newest contribution to the metaverse for NVIDIA is their AI innovations and applications. And in fact, as I did my research, NVIDIA's been a leader in the field of AI for over 2 decades. NVIDIA's current AI technology, which is at the heart of its involvement in the metaverse, is used to, and I'll give you some examples, create virtual worlds very quickly inside the metaverse, develop virtual reality games, create incredibly realistic virtual worlds, including, as I alluded to earlier on, photorealistic avatars, allowing players and visitors to explore and experience the virtual world in ways that have never been seen before. Create augmented reality applications that provide users with an enhanced experience of the virtual world. Train Gen AI for computer visioning, natural body poses, and more. Create data-driven applications used to analyze the metaverse and provide insights into the virtual world. And create virtual experiences that can be monetized, such as virtual reality games and augmented reality platforms. Any comments on their AI strategy or where they're headed, Tim?
It's a natural evolution, as you point out. First of all, when you actually look at software programming in general, creating algorithms, AI is a big part of it. It's funny because at some point when they developed these incredibly powerful GPUs and then added the neural processors as a part of their solution, they began getting a lot of attention in what we call the supercomputer category. These are these monster computers. And actually AMD has done some as well where their chips, when they're, hundreds of them are put together, are providing supercomputer capabilities. But from their standpoint, from NVIDIA's standpoint, a role of AI is actually embedded in their DNA. And they are now powering some of the most powerful servers that actually do the inferences of artificial intelligence data.
It's a beautiful story. In fact, I want to just before I close, Tim, I want to just reinforce that concept of partnerships. So NVIDIA is keen to partner. You talked about CUDA development at the universities and have the engineers train on them, so when they graduate, they can easily transition and work with them. But they're also they built out their metaverse tool set with leading technology players. I mentioned Siemens, but I'd now like to talk about Microsoft because NVIDIA recently cut a deal with Microsoft allowing them to adopt many of Microsoft tools within the Omniverse platform, and that includes Azure, Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint. That will allow users to collaborate more easily in an environment where they are familiar with and shift into and out of 3D worlds using the Omniverse platform. Let me make a couple of closing remarks, Tim, and then let's open it up. So NVIDIA has made a huge commitment to the metaverse. No question about it. The company is leveraging its expertise in AI now to create new and innovative ways to experience the virtual world. From metaverse-based gaming to augmented reality, NVIDIA is making it possible for people to experience the metaverse in ways like never before. By leveraging its powerful hardware, NVIDIA is also revolutionizing user experience in the metaverse and paving the way for new and exciting metaverse applications. NVIDIA is also, and I didn't talk about this, but helping to create the standards, protocols, and development tools needed to make the metaverse a reality, and that's very important. The Metaverse Omniverse platform provides powerful tools and services that enable businesses like BMW and Siemens and Sony and Amazon and many others to capitalize on the opportunities presented by the metaverse. NVIDIA's AI technology, driven in large part by its H100 GPU chip, has the potential to transform the metaverse in ways that we have yet to really even imagine. While Nvidia faces a number of challenges on the metaverse, including security of the metaverse, competition from AMD or others that we spoke about, monetization that companies can actually make good money in the metaverse, I'm convinced this 30-year-old company, which has built its admirable reputation on technology innovation, will continue its impressive innovative approach, not only to address these challenges, but also, and more importantly, to open new metaverse opportunities to all while it moves the metaverse frontier to new heights. Your thoughts, Tim?
There's no question that, as I mentioned, every challenge that they get, they kind of outdo themselves from the standpoint of moving the goalposts. I've known this company very well. I've done a lot of work with them over the years, and I've seen them change direction, and yet in many ways, any direction that they've changed has always been a part of their vision. They're not making things up just to make things up. They are the most strategically thinking company that I've watched this closely, I should point out. I actually, besides Apple, who's very strategic as well, I think that when you look at them going forward, yes, I do believe that the competitors are going to keep nipping at their heels and at some point get close to similar capabilities. One of the advantages that AMD has had over the years, especially when it came to Intel, was undercutting Intel in prices. And at this particular point, I don't know how that will play out, but it will always be a threat. Pat Gelsinger at Intel has made it very clear that he plans to compete directly with Nvidia in the future. And they're making huge strides with what they're doing with their architecture. So while I look at what they're doing, what Nvidia is doing, and am excited about it, and I believe they're going to continue pushing things forward, there are headwinds in the sense of legitimate competition. And there's one other thing that we haven't brought up yet, but the impact of supply chain here is difficult for everybody. The key player for this is TSMC in Taiwan. They're the ones who are actually making these particular chips for the H100s and the AMD architectural chips for AI. And to be fair, the semiconductor industry and TSMC in general are really having a difficult time meeting the demand. I saw a note the other day that one particular company, and I won't name them because anyway, the bottom line is, they purchase 100 H100s at a time, almost every other month. And that's going to be a continued challenge for them.
Well, Tim, I read an article that, first of all, for the H100 chip, this is this graphical processing unit, latest from Nvidia, the demand far outweighs the supply. But I also saw that the average price of the H100 runs around $30,000.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why what is it? They're a $1.8 trillion company now.
Well,
So
I got a
yes,
question. I don't know what timing we have left on the podcast today, Tim. I always love to just chat with you about this, but I have a question for you because I made a presentation in Florida at the Enterprise Metaverse Expo last week, and I had a thought as I was coming back on the plane, and I'd like to ask it to you. So, is it the Nvidias and the semiconductor companies that are driving the metaverse, or is it the demand from companies that want to be in the metaverse that are driving the Nvidias and other semiconductors companies to create new chips? Which way does it work?
well, it's obviously both. The demand is there because, first of all, since Sam Altman and OpenAI introduced ChatGPT in the end of 2022, there's been this gigantic force of interest that is pushing artificial intelligence into just about every application. And I think you and I discussed this in our last podcast that at CES, it was hard to find any company that didn't have some kind of an AI connected product, or at least one that was being driven in that direction. But I think that what you're seeing here is the demand and the interest is extremely high. Where companies right now, I think, are on the 30% side as opposed to the technologies companies already knowing their roadmaps and pushing way ahead because they think ahead of the customer, right? The customer may not even know what they want, and yet all the three of these companies are already providing what they're going to need. But what the reason that the companies are in that 30% as opposed to 70% of the semiconductors driving things is because they're still in the early stages of trying to figure out what they're going to do. The way I think of it at the moment, except for some of these really leading companies like Siemens and others, the majority of the enterprises in general are still trying to basically understand what it means to create a product that uses not only artificial intelligence, but as we've been talking about, shifting over to a 3D immersive world. I mentioned in one of our podcasts some time ago is that, the last 60 years was focused just on bringing digital technology in 2D to the world from an analog world. And the next 25 years, I think, is going to be focused on not only artificial intelligence, but the whole idea of moving the computing experience from 2D to 3D. And this is now one of the most significant transitions in our history of tech to where companies can't stumble into it. They have to strategically think about and design for it.
Yeah.
And this is what you and I've been pushing all along when we've been talking to customers is you can't sit on the sidelines. You really got to start creating a vision. You have to start developing prototypes. You have to start talking to your people about it. You need to do more internal research. You need to bring in people who can help that at least are, in this area. But the technology itself is always going to be ahead of the customer. If in tech, if we aren't doing that, we're not doing our jobs. So yeah, that thought on the plane is really an important one in the sense of understanding that the important part of tech is we basically invent the future, and then the customer works hard to keep up with the future.
And that's just what Nvidia has done for the last 30 years. What a wonderful case study, Tim.
Yeah, it's a fun company. Again, their particular campus is just magnificent. It's one of those wonders of the world type, like Apple's spaceship. And I don't expect them or any of the other competitors to slow down. I think we're going to see massive improvements, not only in semiconductor architecture. And I'd probably be remiss to not add at this particular point a piece of technology or software that was shown by OpenAI called Sora, S-O-R-A. And if you have a chance to look at that, that is both promising and frightening, where you can actually just speak a couple of words or a sentence, and it'll turn that into a video. And on OpenAI's Sora site, there are 10 examples of what it can do. And it's so realistic, it's scary. The good news is that Sam Altman and the OpenAI team are not releasing it. It's going into the hands of only some specialty people who are going to help them make a determination of how to keep it from being used nefariously, let's put it that way. To be honest with you, when you actually see Sora, you see the next inflection point of how powerful AI is going to be. And so the symbiotic relationship between AI and the metaverse is another thing that has really got to be thought through. And I know this is the topic that you talked about down in Florida.
Yep, 2022 was the year of the metaverse. We had VC funding surpassing $20 billion in that year in the metaverse. 2023 was the year of generative AI VC funding surpassing 10 billion in 2023 for Gen AI. But I see 2024 as the year of symbiotic Gen AI and metaverse growth. And we don't have the time now, but in another podcast, we'll walk through how does Gen AI deliver to the metaverse this symbiotic capability.
Right.
But thank you, Tim, for a great podcast.
Thank you, Barton, and thank you for those of you who are with us. Thanks for listening to Business Success in a Virtual World. Barton and I have helped global companies successfully develop and implement strategies to utilize these new technologies. For more information or to contact us, please visit ismguide.com and select Metaverse Resource Center. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your preferred platform.